Homework time. When the checkbox is checked, mark the corresponding thing as completed. Who got this done? Excellent. Be sure this gets synced to Firebase and that it persists across page refreshes, that should say. Well, if you got it done, then that should work too. You should get that for free. Super mega bonus credit, add a due date to each thing, and make sure that it persists. Who got that done? Not bad. Who tried? Didn't try? You gotta try, folks. Killing me. You're only hurting yourself, you know. All right, let's add some things here so we have some checkboxes. Hey, Spicy, what's your favorite brand of peanut butter? Oh, I heard of Peter Pan. Is that you, Eric? Yeah. Peter Pan. Oh, man, we have a war going on. All right. So we have checkboxes, but if I check something and refresh the page, it's not checked anymore, right? What are we going to do about this? What do you think, Jack? Did you get this? Did you make this work?
Yeah. First we need the completed property for the things.
Yeah. So to sync something with Firebase, which we need to do because we want it to stay checked, we're going to need to add a property to our things. Right now they only have an ID and a name, so they need something that's going to keep track of whether that thing is checked or not, basically. So where do I start? Who feels good about their... Okay, go ahead. Okay, in the app component, we had a method called thing, right? Yep. No, that's all right. No, you were clear. A method called thing. Okay, so we have ID, we have name. Let's add completed. We will default it to false. Okay, that way every new one we add will have that property. Just by way of example, I am temporarily going to default it to true, because before I worry about handling the case where we actually change the checkbox, I want to make sure it reflects the current value on that checkbox. You know what I mean? So that if it is completed true, I want the checkbox to be checked. So let's do that next. Clayton, you seem to know all about this. Where should I go now? To the thing component. Yep. Here's the checkbox. So what do I do with the checkbox? Right now, there's an input of type checkbox. This value on isn't really doing us any good. So I'm going to get rid of it. What do I need to do here? What'd you do? Can you tell me what to type?
Default checked.
Okay, default checked. How many people found that? He can't be the only one who found default checked. Anybody else? Only one? Oh, okay. You got Billy. Brownie points. Not super mega bonus points. Those are spoken for, but brownie points. Okay, so checked is the property on the regular old DOM. But if you use that in React, it may have worked for you more or less, but you'll get a grave warning just like we did with content editable, right? So default checked is the safe way to do this. Because it's being synced with state, we need to make this component, excuse me, shouldn't use that word, it's loaded. we want to make this form control under React's control, and using default checked will do that. If we were to look at the React documentation for forms, there's quite a bit of information here. Where's the section I wanted? There, controlled components. Talks about the fact that they typically maintain their own state and update it based on user input, but in React, it's typically maintained in state or prop. So we do things slightly differently. So we use default checked, and that means when the page loads before I've done anything myself, that's how it's going to be. So if I add any new things, I expect them to be checked by default, right? Did I actually set that to anything? Where is it? No, default checked. Default checked what? Finish that thought. Oh, wait, Billy, you're the one who did it? Yeah, default checked equals what?
I set it equal to course,
Right. Yeah. Thing dot, was it completed or complete? Completed, right? I think so. Yep. Let's add a new one. And look, it's checked. I start typing. Jason, Seth has asked you to go to the supermarket for him and bring him back some peanut butter. He doesn't care about brand, but it better be creamy. None of that crunchy nonsense. You stand before the aisle of peanut butter, overwhelmed by your choices. What do you choose? Name another brand. Just say Skippy. Oh, he's too good for Skippy. This is exactly what happened in the morning. But hey, it's crossed off, right? So that's pretty cool. So now new ones have that value. So the checked status now does reflect the value of the completed field thanks to our default checked here. But we don't really want to default it to true. But checking one doesn't do anything, right? This is one-way binding. Whatever the value is in state will affect the checkbox, but changing the checkbox will not affect state as of now. So what do we do next? What do you say? Sam 8000. Sorry? Yeah. Right now, whether it's checked or not is reflecting what was already in state, but changing it, turning it on and off, is not updating state. How do I make it do that? Yes. Yeah.
What I did was I created a method called DVEV within the thing. So essentially, whether or not if it's clicked, I change the completed value of the thing to true or false, and then I call the save thing method and save it.
Okay. So app already has a method called saveThing that receives the thing as an argument. So whatever changes you've made to that will get reflected there, right? So we don't need anything new at the app level. But we need to handle the event at the thing level. So he made a new method that updates that value. I'm going to call mine toggle completion. I sometimes put way too much thought into how I name my methods. So I'll tell you my thought process here. We called it update name for changing the name. So I kind of wanted to say update complete, or completed, update completed. But then it makes it sound like the update has finished, right? As opposed to I'm updating a field named completed. So toggle completion, that's very clear. It's a verb. I like my methods to be verbs. Toggle completion. Not that you have to name it that, but that's why I named it that. So that's going to receive an event, right? So how do I make it call that when I check the box? How do I do that part, Alex B? I have this toggle completion thing that I want to run whenever I change the checkbox. So how do I do that? What do I change in the JSX? On click is an option. Don't read my hesitation as like a personal judgment. I'm going to choose a different one though. Who chose something other than on click? All right, Alex H. On change, just like we did on the other field, right? That works on a checkbox too. So on change, we will call, let's see, is this or is this not? This is a class. So this dot toggle completion. Look good? So how's toggle completion going to work? Who did I ask? Jack, was it you? So he described something very much like update name, right? It's very similar. So this is how we wrote update name. We want this to instead update the value of the completed field. So what do you see here that needs to change for the checkbox instead of the other thing? That atom. Yeah. So top line can stay as is. So you're changing this one. So dictate this line for me. Not thing dot completed. So that truly toggles it. That ought to be good. I think it's extremely unlikely that this will ever not work. But in the unlikely event that somehow the checkbox should get out of sync with it, and again, I think that's unlikely, especially when it's under React's control. But if this weren't a React thing, I might be tempted to do this another way, especially if I were using click, because we could end up with a race condition. More about that in a second. But how else could I do this? Good job. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to do it another way. Eric. ev.target.checked. So if it's true, it's true. Because we always want to make sure that the state of the checkbox reflects the truthiness of completed. So what I mean about a race condition, if, for example, I had made it an on-click, and I clicked it a bunch of times real fast, I could end up in a position where I basically end up kind of with a double negative somewhere along the way, and it gets out of sync. And then every time I click it, it'll change to the opposite value. But if it was already the wrong value, it'll just stay the wrong value. Whereas if we do it this way, where we make sure that it's set to the current state of that checkbox, that kind of stuff is a little less likely to happen. Again, it's an edge case, but I feel a little bit better about setting it to the value of checked. So everyone get why that works? Very good. Let's try it out. Let's check off GIF. Let's refresh the page. Looks good. Uncheck this, check this. Refresh. Looks good. Add a new one. Skippy. Refresh, still good. We look out on Firebase. Look at our things. And we see completed true, completed true, completed false. Just the way we like it, right? Go us. Homework part 1 managed. persist thing completion.